Hello and welcome back to today's final splash of paint. Now it's time to welcome back SAA contemporary artist Marion Dutton as she demonstrates how to use a splash of paint to jumpstart your imagination and stop staring at a blank canvas.
So what I wanted to show you today is how to create an acrylic mottled background which will really help jumpstart your imagination. I'm dipping into some white gesso. Now this is quite thick and I'm going to apply this nice and thick over the entire canvas. Now this is acrylic paint. You do have to work pretty quickly with acrylics. Now this really does jumpstart your imagination. There's nothing quite so bad as staring at a white canvas and not quite knowing what to paint. And creating these mottled backgrounds can really sort of kickfire your imagination. So once I've got a good covering of the gesso on, I will lightly mist that. Now that will keep that nice and open and enable me to create a really soft blended background. Now I like to create these nice and random. My only real major concerns is that I will start my lighter colours at the top and usually the darker colours at the bottom. But if I don't like that, I can always turn it the other way around. So I'm going to dip into some cadmium yellow, a little bit of yellow ochre and a touch of the cadmium orange. And I'm just putting a little bit of that onto the edge of the brush. And what I like about this is that you get a really uneven blend, something nice and interesting. I'll throw in a little more of the yellow, keep it a little warmer at the top. I'm using a flip-flop X stroke, and you can see how much blending time, just by adding that gesso on there, it enables you to create a really nice soft blend. If you do feel it sticking, very lightly mist it, but it is important that you work that in, otherwise you'll have little spots of white peeking through. So I'm just going to nip now into a little touch of alizarin crimson and burnt sienna. Start creating some darker colours and darker tones. A touch of the blue, a little bit of purple. So I like to keep this nice and random and nice and soft. Sometimes I'll paint these with something specific in mind. I might use greens if I want to do a bird, create a sort of mottled, out of focus foliage. And other times I'll just throw on some colour, see what I end up with. So I'm just throwing different tones in there and just lightly, it's all mixing with the white gesso and creating some really nice, interesting tones. Let's throw in a little bit of the warmer tones further down. Now once I've got something I'm fairly happy with, and you can see how much I can still keep blending this, and you've got quite a lot of opening time. It's absolutely ideal for doing skies and things like that. So once I've got something I'm happy with, I'm going to switch to a large mop and very lightly I'm just going to soften. Now you can leave it like that if you like the texture. I like to just lightly soften everything using a soft mop to keep a nice sort of out of focus mottled background. And this really is just to jumpstart your imagination, get away from the white canvas. So that's pretty much it. So here you can see where I've actually used this technique. I've created a lovely mottled background using acrylics, let that completely dry. And then I looked at what I had and decided, do you know, a lovely floral will work perfectly on there. Now this floral has been completed in oils, but of course you can paint on top of the acrylic background with acrylics if that's what you wanted. But it does sort of show you how you can jumpstart your imagination and get away from that white canvas staring at you. I do hope you'll give this a try.
Thanks Marion, it's worth pointing out that coloured grounds can help transform your paintings by making them look more professional, more finished, and can sometimes actually increase the speed spent finishing your painting. Right, we've just got time to delve into the Splash Your Paint post bag to answer a few more of your artistic questions. Rosemary Chapman says, I've completed 3 paintings using Derwent art bars for a group exhibition that's coming up shortly. My question is, how do I describe what media the paintings are done in? Can I just put art bars, or should it be something like water media, water-soluble media, water-soluble wax bars, or what? The paintings are done on 300-gram not watercolour paper. So far, nobody I've asked has actually had an answer. Well, this is a bit of a tricky one. I would suggest water-soluble media is the best way to go, as this is how Derwent described them. But to be honest, the best person to ask is the exhibitor organiser. And finally, Phil Watson asks, I've been given 2 pads of acrylic 300-gram paper. Well, I have to stretch this paper before I use it. I always stretch watercolour paper, but I'm not sure if acrylic pads need stretching. Well, this completely depends on the technique you employ to paint with. I suggest that if you are using it as watercolour and thinning it with water or medium, there could be a risk of cockling. Of course, even if you are using oil technique and layering the paint on nice and thick, it could still be enough moisture to slightly cockle the paper. I've been asked that 300 gram is a decent weight, and I'd tape it to a board on all 4 sides and just experiment. Well, folks, I'm afraid that's it for today's programme, but join us next time when Paul Beattie returns to demonstrate his unique approach for painting acrylic landscapes, and we'll take a closer look at a brush that no artist should be without. We'll also continue our look at trees through the seasons and join Jeff Kersey for a spectacular Peak District adventure. I hope you can tune in next time for another colourful edition of A Splash of Paint.
Whether you're a beginner, improver or professional, discover more about the full range of SAA membership benefits available to bring a bigger splash of paint into your life. Visit www.saa.co.uk for details.